Okay, we are here with Sam Villa, and so happy to see you, Sam, because we're going to be talking about some really cool subjects today, having to do with especially newer stylists who are right out of school. So thank you so much for being on this Zoominar today for my podcast and channel.
Well, Lori, what a pleasure and honor to be here with you today and to be with your community. But I just love this whole thing, the Hairstylist Accelerator Program, and I'm anxious to support it in any way that I can.
Thanks. Yeah, I've always been a big fan, as you know, and we've worked together with different, projects and stuff at Redken. But I wanted to just have a conversation, a really like casual, easy conversation, because you're, um, if you don't know Sam Villa, he is one of the greatest influencers of our time ever in hairdressing history. And I will tell you that being a NAHA winner for multiple years, as well as Global Educator of the Year. And I will tell you, he is probably one of the most wonderful humans I think I've ever met. Not only does he make great hairdressing tools and he has great education online, he's also a friend, but more importantly, he speaks to all hairstylists and all hairdressers of all kinds, all walks of life who do all kinds of hair. And I think that Sam brings so much value to our industry. I can't even begin to tell you how grateful I am to have any of your resources used with any of the students or any newer hairstylists that I meet. So the first question I want to ask you though was, because you've been doing hair for a while. So how long have you been doing hair? First of all, I just want to know.
It's been, somebody asked me that the other day. Okay, let me say this. I'll let you guys do the math. I went to beauty school in 1976. So a lot of you probably were not born. Yeah. And that's when I went to beauty school. And I was in beauty school and almost dropped out. I'll never forget, Lori. I was there for about a month. And about maybe a little more, maybe 2 months. And my teacher came up to me. She said, Sam, your rollers are falling out. You need to go put them back in. Your clients under the dryer, they're falling out. Go put them back in. And you might want to think about doing something else. So,
oh my gosh.
You just never know where you're going to end up. And I'll never forget, Lori, the first hair show I did back in the San Francisco Bay Area, because that's where I went to school, who was sitting in the front row? That teacher. That teacher was sitting in the front row of the show I was doing, something like 15 years later. And I said, wow, it's so great to see you, Miss Lena. And I said, so coaching, give me some coaching afterwards. And she goes, puts her hand in my face. And she goes, I'm here to apologize to you, number one, what I said to you. And number two, the student is now teaching the teacher, which I thought was pretty cool.
But that's amazing. That's amazing. Yes. Really cool. Good. Well, if you, you meet hairdressers of all ages, right? You meet new people coming out of school. I know that you have a program where actually your company has connected with schools and education companies. And I've actually spoken to that department, because it's great that you give so much value to the schools, because the schools have a hard job, right? They get these students in, they have to educate them, they have to get them to pass state board. And as we know now, some states are reducing their hours of training before people can get licensed. So we have these people coming out of school and they're not ready to hit the floor with the ground running, right? So I think that words of advice from you and from your experience and your background, what top 3 things would you give advice? Like, what would be your top 3 advice things that you'd give to the newer stylist who's out of school? So maybe less than 3 or 4 years experience. What would you tell them?
I would tell them that the learning never stops. So a lot of times what happens, the mindset and the attitude of a student was, hey, I graduated. Now I'm going to go work in a salon. And as I did at that time in my youth, you think you know it all. And really you don't. So you're learning by trial and error. I think my advice to a student is make sure you get into a great associate program. Make sure you get involved with the Hairstylist Accelerator Program. But I really think one of the key things is never stop learning. Now, as a hairdresser, as a teacher, I must never stop learning. Now, remember, the first thing I said was as a hairdresser. I think there's always something to learn. So to the youth out there, the rainbows of the future, as I call them, what I want you to know is, education is a must, and it never stops. Attend every program that you can afford and that you can possibly attend. Now, you may attend some and you think, well, I didn't learn anything there. I want you to back up and then ask yourself, well, what did I learn not to do? What did I learn not to say? So you'll learn some things to do and some things not to say, but you might have an attitude and say, well, that doesn't work for me, but why doesn't it work for you? So I think learning is number one. Number two, all fabrics of hair are important.
Mm.
All fabrics. And that's one thing
Yeah.
that I did not learn. So I look back at my career, I wish I would know how to work with texture hair. So I've had to relearn that. I've
Mm.
had to put myself in classes and immerse myself in classes. So understand all fabrics. The youth, you have to understand that the hair is the fabric
Mhm.
and the body is the canvas. So how you mold this to complement that is critical. So understand the limits and capabilities of the type of fabric you're working with and embrace all fabrics. Then next is, it goes even further, understanding facial features and things like that. See, these are things that I did not learn that I had to catch up and learn. So when I look back and I think, education is a must, I learned everything, all the fabrics of hair. And then the next thing is tools. I think really understand and learn, continually learn how to work with tools. Because a flat iron, for example, is a tool that we thought, oh, it straightens the hair. Look at today's world and how we use a flat iron. So
Totally.
that's that education part. So education is definitely something in terms of that. Understanding the fabric that you work with, and then understanding the tools. So now imagine that you put those three things together, you've got your end result. You've got your on your way to success.
Totally. I love that. And the tools are a big part of it. When we when at my salon, when we hire people from school, sometimes the school tools, depending on where they've been, they're not up, I mean, I always recommend your tools because they're the best. They're in my salon. We sell them, we use them. But I will say that the tools are a big thing. Like if I wanted to, use a screwdriver to drive a nail, that's not going to work. So
Right.
tools are major. And in my program, we go through the tools quite a bit, actually, that we go through the brushes and the brushes being like sandpaper, right? But I love that
I
you
love
bring
that.
that up because the brushes, most people who leave school don't even know that there's 5 or 6 different textures of brushes and when do you use what brush when. So your education is, your YouTube channel is gold. Your content that you put out is so amazing for students. And I've been lucky enough to be able to grab little bits and pieces of it to be able to present to new students where I feel it's really important as they get out of school. But I hope that everyone watching this is on Sam's YouTube and subscribed because it is absolutely mind-blowing. Your ambassadors are amazing and you've done an amazing job. So those 3 things are major. I loved what you said about the fabric of hair, about never stop learning. And more importantly, even you as a learner are always learning, right? Because you're a trainer and a teacher and a coach and a mentor. One thing that I saw you say on stage, I think it was 2 months ago at Premiere, I was able to catch the show that you did. And it was so great because you said you never stop learning, but you said we no longer are conversationalists behind the chair. You have to be an educator and you have to educate your clients or else you're not going to be relevant anymore. And I love that you brought that up. And so if you can just kind of say it again the way you say it, because it was so powerful and it was very, very, very impactful when you said it. It was just a great moment.
Well, thank you for that, Lori. I think what's so important is that we really, I think that in the way that I grew up, guys, behind the chair, it was about, all about making the client feel good, all about doing what they wanted, things like that. But as I grew and became more experienced, it was about me really becoming and understanding that I can solve problems in a number of ways. And it's about, okay, what are your problems with your hair? What are the solutions? So I really think that it's important that people understand, like some of you out there and youth, the young ones, you need to get this. Part of retail is your professional responsibility. But don't think about selling, think about telling. Think about just talking about tell. So you tell them about a tool, how to use it. You tell them about a product and you tell them the why behind the product. Who cares if they buy it or not? What you need to understand is if you teach behind the chair and you give them things and information that helps them solve their problems, eventually your reward is they're going to start investing more into you. Why? Because you built the trust. So the trust comes through education process. And then when you build that trust, eventually it's like, Sam, you know that shampoo and conditioner you've been talking about? I want to take that. So I think, that product is not an option, a necessity. You've heard me say that many times. But I think that now, with the world today, based upon what we've gone through, get the conversation and control the conversation. So some people approached me on the side and they said, Sam, you know what? But that's not, you're not, it doesn't, where's the personal side of that? I go, you want to hear a personal side? Okay, let's play role play. You're the client, you got 3 kids. So tell me, how are the children? How's Tommy? How's Deirdre? And how's Louise? What's Louise's hair like? I remember we were talking about. So you just see how I talked. How are the kids? But I immediately took it to hair. How's Louise's hair? Is it growing? Remember, you talked about me, you said it wasn't growing. See, that's
Love
controlling
that.
the conversation. And that's being the educator and showing genuine concern. I think what we need to do is we have to understand that, find out what types of challenges are they having with their hair? What do you have that you don't want?
Right.
Well, I have curly hair and I want straight. I have brown hair. I want to be blonde. What do you want that you don't have? You know,
Love it.
what do you like most about your hair? Have you ever had a favorite haircut? You see, questioning skills of an educator are what really creates and makes success. The good Lord gave us 2 of these, and that's the ears, and gave us 1 of these. As hairdressers, my friends, the young ones, you're going to learn to use both of these. But you're going to use these ears more than you use this, because it's listening skills that are going to build your success at the salon. And then it's the questioning skills based upon what you hear that are going to continue to build that success, that are going to continue to build that connection. So I really believe what I'm trying to say here is that communication builds your wealth. You
Nice.
have to understand that, my friends, those young ones out there. So get away from being shy. If you're the shy one, not anymore. I mean, you're talking to a guy that grew up with having some issues, and sometimes it comes up, getting words out of my mouth. You're talking to a guy that was shy. My father pulled me aside. Remember, I grew up in the barbershop. He said, look, son, you're about to graduate from school. You're about to go into a salon. You need to understand that you got to communicate with authority. You got to communicate with positive. You got to communicate with confidence. So if you want to be successful, you've got to get out of your comfort zone. So sometimes you just got to push yourself. And, I think that's something that I wish I would have known earlier in my career.
Right. Right. Okay. So if that's the one thing you wish you knew earlier, I love that. So communication is everything, and really getting out there and not being shy, right? Because I wrote it down: listening skills, connecting skills. Communication is wealth, right? It builds wealth for sure.
Yeah. And if
Um,
there's salons out there that they say, well, Sam, I've got 2 young ones and they're shy, then get them, it's experience
mhm.
that creates success. So an exercise I gave that salon owner was I said, pair those 2 up, pair
That's
them
a
up.
great idea.
Or I want you to take a person, a teammate that's in the salon that they don't interact with. That person that they don't interact with becomes the client. Now, this shy one becomes the consultant, the service provider. Now, give them a script, give them the questions, get them to actually role play and do it and videotape it. Then after you've done that exercise, watch the videotape and coach them through the videotape, and then point out the shyness, point out the level, the volume of their voice. See, that is coaching. That's mentoring. And I think that the youth, that's part of that education process. Never stop learning. So I hope this is helping.
It's so helpful. You've just thrown out so many golden nuggets. I'm like catching them and writing them down too. I've been listening to your education for, I don't know, maybe 20 years or more. I know that you've been a salon owner. You've been in the barbershop. You grew up in the barbershop. You've been in hair, but you as an educator are, you are the top as far as I'm concerned. But when you look back, right? And so, but like, and all the things you've done like global work, and you've got some of the biggest trophies in the world. What's the one thing that you love to teach? Like, what's your favorite thing to talk about? Like what really is when you've taught a lot of different subjects. And you say all the time that you're the messenger and you're the, you bring it, and you're an amazing teacher and instructor. But do you have a favorite thing that you like to teach, or do you have a favorite thing that you like to do?
Gosh, it's kind of shifted, Lori. It's for when I started out, it was cutting. Cutting was my number one, like love, if you will.
Yeah.
Color, I shied away from. The joke at Redken is don't let Sam touch color. He's colorblind. He can mix clear, but that's it. And then I think, so it's interesting because I I mean, it was hair cutting, and then it shifted to braiding. I really got big into braiding a lot.
Yeah,
And
you
then
did.
I got into avant-garde. Even Chris Barron will ask me, God, Sam, what happened to those days when I first met you? You were so avant-garde, avant-garde. I said, Chris, I chose to change my path, and I wanted to be the hairdresser's hairdresser and focus on being a teacher and being a messenger. And that was my focus. So I kind of shied away from that. Now I'm really passionate getting back into cutting because I think the haircut is back, which I'm so glad. And
Yeah,
yes, I
right.
love balayage, guys, but you just need to figure out how to do balayage those layers now. You got to figure out those layers that are like this, So I think that now I'm kind of leaning towards, teaching this and trying to combine motivation in it.
Nice. Because
That's what I'm loving right now.
yeah, the wealth that you bring, like honestly, the information that you have where you can combine the skill of the stylist with the business stuff. It really, I know that this is so valuable because it's real and it's the everyday stuff. And I think that role playing using video, I know that you are an amazing idea guy, and many ideas that you have on stage that you give to all of your students and people and your fans. And I hope people take your advice and run with it because it works. I've done it for years, and I know that the advice that you give now is so relevant. You have stayed so relevant, and your collaboration with other people in our industry, you are very sharing with everything, and I'm so grateful for that. And I know that when you had a program and you brought in, I think Jacob Kahn and Mother,
Mhm.
you guys were doing some amazing haircuts with the wolf cut and all of that. So I just really appreciate your mindset on collaboration as well as creating helpful ideas with business and cutting, because you do have really the all-encompassing education points. I mean, you hit all the corners. I mean, even though you're not
Thank you.
coloring, no one's letting you color, but in general, you
Well,
always
you
have
know what?
colorists nearby.
Yeah, thanks for that, Lori. And I want the youth to hear that I mean, look, focus on how you can versus why you can't. If I can do it, you can do it. But it's called practice. It's called practice, practice, practice. So and like I continue to say, the learning doesn't stop. You have mannequins. You got to
Yeah.
have mannequin. When you're not busy, jump on a mannequin and start practicing. And it's simple. The youth, you're like, what do you mean, Sam? Well, the first thing I'd start doing if somebody that came out of beauty school, I'd say, okay, I want you to practice your combing. What do you mean, practice my combing? I want you to comb both sides, flip. Can't practice your combing for 30 minutes. Okay,
Amazing.
now practice your sectioning for another 30 minutes. I want you to section and I want to see it clean. Now practice cutting a straight line. Just cut a see, so much about development. Right now we're getting ready to have an event. And what's going to happen is somebody is going to become very famous in February. They're probably going to get their picture on a couple covers of magazines. They're probably going to make a lot of money after February. I'm talking about the Winter Olympics.
Oh, good. Yeah. Right.
And the reason they're going to make that money, become famous, is because they practice, 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 worked out, and it got them a gold medal. So, people say, oh, you won these awards, you won these awards. Well, see, an award is a confirmation of what you're doing and what you're saying is working. That's what it does. It confirms that. And it's a big way of saying thank you. And that's how I look at an award. To me, it's not, oh, I won this, I won that. No, for me, it's saying, okay, I'm on the right path here. But yet, what's interesting is you got to have the mindset of reinventing yourself as a hairdresser. So don't fall in love with one look and stay like I did with a wedge. Back in the days. I would cut a wedge on everybody, whether they wanted it or not, and I lost some clients and I gained clients, but that was all about me. See, so it's about, I don't fall in love with a razor. I don't fall in love with a shear. I hear some guys say, I can do everything with a shear. Well, you got to understand a shear will cut it blunt. Yeah, you can slice it, but you're not getting the same slice effect that a razor would do. And also the fabric. Understand the fabric based upon the tools, the limits and capabilities of the fabric, the limits and capabilities of the tools. So I really think that I will continue to be the messenger. I'm not a rock star. I'm not a genius. I stand before people motivated by the passion to teach, and will continue to research, and research. People go, where did you get that idea? I go, I researched and found it. But what I did with it was subtly change it so you could understand it better. So I'm not, people go, if I see people doing the things that I do, they say, oh, I got that from Sam. No. I inspired you because somebody else inspired me with that. And I think what needs to happen is the youth coming out of school, please look at history. Look at history. Go back and understand who Vidal Sassoon was, because they revolutionized the consultation process. They're the ones that took those people, those ladies out of rollers into haircuts and wash and wear and blow dries. So, and that's where that consultation process, and students need to know that. Who's Vidal Sassoon? Who's Trevor Zorby? Who's Anthony Mascolo? Who is back in the 50s and 60s? Got to research all of this information. I think that's so important to know.
Nice. Okay, good. Well, listen, this has been super, super valuable. I'm really, really grateful that you were able to come on today and share your words of wisdom for any newbie watching, or any stylist. I know for me, I can hear you talk all day long, and I hear things. I do hear repeat things, and I always reabsorb, and I'm like, oh yeah, I knew that before. Why did I forget that? Or why don't I use that? So definitely, I'm so grateful for you. And I know every hairstylist who watches this will love it and get a lot out of it. But thank you for what you do for our industry. And I'm sure we'll see each other again soon at a show nearby or a Redken class around Florida. So
I'm sure we will. And thank you so much for your support. I just want to confirm that what you just said there confirms exactly what we're talking about. And I mean, North Carolina beaches are beautiful. South Carolina beaches are absolutely beautiful. And a quick little story, this local guy saw this tourist way down about 100 yards picking up stuff and throwing it back in the water. Go, what's he doing? As he walked closer, he saw that what he was doing was picking up starfish and throwing them back into the water. And the local guy went up to him and said, sir, what are you doing? He goes, well, I'm taking these starfish and putting them back in the water. He goes, well, the starfish do that, and it's seasonal. And eventually, I mean, you're not going to save all these starfish. You can see there's hundreds. He picked up one, threw it in the water, and he looked at the local guy and said, well, I made a difference on that one. And then he picked up another one and threw it back in the water and said, and I made a difference on that one. The point that I'm trying to make here is that as a hairdresser, every guest that sits in your chair, work with intent and purpose and make a difference on that one. Every single one makes a difference. So thank you again, Lori, for the opportunity. Thank you for what you're doing. And we at Sanvia are here to support you with your concept of the Hairstylist Accelerator Program. And best of luck, my dear.
All right. Thank you so much, Sam. We'll talk again soon.
Okay. Take care.
Thanks.